What is good, ladies and gentlemen? Today's podcast episode is going to be featuring a brand new format that I'll be using moving forward. I'm also going to let you know that podcast episodes will now be publishing Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 4 a.m. EST. So you can listen to it going to the gym or listen to it on your way to work. And I'll also be dropping a video version for the YouTube channel. So feel free to go subscribe at Purple Political Breakdown. Now, the segments that I'll be going over, I'll be still talking about the news, which does include Trump's big, beautiful bill, what it entails, what it takes away. We'll also be going over some other executive orders and actions that Donald Trump is doing, including potentially insinuating that we should have more of a nuclear program in society. Also, the Golden Dome plan and what that means and what that could do to the national debt. And of course, the executive action that I kind of agree with, the bill that I kind of agree with, is in regards to revenge porn and deep fakes and criminalizing certain AI behavior. We're going to go over all of that, explain it, what it means in society. So stay tuned for that. We also will go into how the perception of due process is misleading. A lot of people from the Democrats and Republican side have used it in their arguments to criticize Trump, to also criticize what happened to January 6ers, and also criticizing Obama's deportations back in the past. We'll go into detail what that meant, what is the difference between the due process and how it was used or not used, and explain it in its entirety to see if MAGA and Republicans were truly correct to compare that to what Donald Trump is doing right now. And we will also be doing something that's a lot of fun in going over controversial issues to expand the nuanced perspective. This one's going to feature my background right here, Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese, and how the conversation of the race war between them two, even though they don't care about it, but all the fans do, is kind of getting weird, and how we should really move on from that because it's just basketball at the end of the day. We'll use this conversation through the lens of the beef that happened between Ryan Clark and RG3. We'll listen to what they have to say and give my own personal opinion about it. Another thing that I will be doing that I'm not doing today's podcast episode is I'll be answering your questions or I'll be answering a comment. So feel free to email me a question you have that you want me to answer on the podcast. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast episode and the new format. Enjoy. Welcome back to the Purple Political Breakdown, ladies and gentlemen. We are back again. Now, I have changed kind of how I'm doing things a little bit, as you guys are going to find out. If you don't know already, I have changed how I'm going to be doing the podcast, and I've reorganized the structure. Moving forward, I will be publishing podcast episodes every Tuesday, every Thursday, every Saturday, 3 times a week, 4 a.m. EST. So if you want to listen to it in the morning, if you're going to the gym, or if you're driving to work, you can feel free. Each of them are going to be their own unique things. Thursdays are a little bit more tricky because it depends on if I have a guest. So if I do a guest episode, they'll be purely for a Thursday showtime. With that said, this episode will feature a lot of different segments, and I'm going to kind of describe how they work. First, we got nuanced news. This is basically what I've been doing for the last couple of months, where I'm going to be going over the news for you guys' information so you guys understand what is going on, you understand what it means, all that great stuff. I have another great segment, kind of similar to what I did before, and I'm going to call this, shout out to Angel, one of the people I work with, Research on a Dime. Basically what this is I'm going to research a topic that I feel like is either overblown or misconstrued, and I'm going to dive into it more in depthly on what it means, if it's true. And this is just so you have a better understanding of different narratives that go on in the political landscape or just in the landscape of news in general. And then I have 2 more segments. One is called Deep Dive Trend. Basically, this is me going over a topic of discussion that is not necessarily politically related, but is important for the conversation of nuanced thinking. And that could be something as complicated as a big drama between superstars like Amber Heard or Johnny Depp. If that was going on now, this could be a time to talk about that and go into the layers of the conversation. or something as simple as what's going on with social media influencers that is affecting people's perception. So I'm going to be doing that as well. Whatever the big topic is, I'm going to give a nuanced conversation discussion. I'll be playing some clips, maybe potentially as well, reading some quotes. And that one is just more pop, social, cultural, news type things, but another nuanced perspective because there's something to gain from these topics and why they're so controversial, why they're so popular. And then my last segment is called Break Down the Public. Basically, what this is you guys can ask me a question via email at thetrendgoldandfaith@gmail.com. You can ask me a question. I will research, I will answer it on the podcast and give it that intricate thinking that I know you guys love. Or I will get a comment from one of the videos I do, one of the clips I do, or just something on social media, and I will read that and break that down or answer that. So that is a little bit more engagement with the audience, engagement with the viewers, engagement with the listeners. But all of these segments will be for these Tuesday and Saturday episodes for the most part. I might be working on something else. We will see how that works out. But ultimately, this is going to be a lot of fun. And these will also be posted on YouTube. So now I got a video version for YouTube as well as the audio version for all the listeners on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, that's how everything's going to work. Let's dive right into the first segment of the day, Nuanced News. Let's start with something distinctly American, guns. The Trump administration just reversed a Biden-era ban and settled a lawsuit that now makes force reset triggers legal again. These devices let a semi-automatic rifle fire at speeds that closely mimic a fully automatic machine gun. The DOJ, led by Attorney General Pam Bondi, claims it's about protecting the Second Amendment and ending unnecessary litigation. Now, what doesn't make sense is that these are still banned for handguns, so the rules apply differently depending on what you're holding. Next up, Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act, a kitchen sink of policy proposals crammed into one enormous piece of legislation. It narrowly passed the House 215 to 214. It includes everything from tax-free tips and overtime to expanded child tax credits. Supporters say it's about putting more money in people's pockets. Critics say it's financial sleight of hand. To pay for it, the bill proposes $880 billion in spending cuts. Much of it is targeting Medicaid. Analysts warn that could mean over 8 million people losing health coverage, and the bill does not stop there. Estimates say it could add $3 to $5 trillion to the national debt, something that a lot of people are concerned about, right? Think of it like maxing out every credit card in your name while hoping your next paycheck solves everything. Trump's team insists that numbers will work out, while critics and experts not so sure about that. One part of that mega bill has already split off and passed on its own, the No Tax on Tips Act. The Senate passed it unanimously. Democrats and Republicans were all on board, giving tipped workers a tax break on up to $25,000 of reported income. That's a big win for service workers. Even typically divided lawmakers found common ground, at least for this one moment we can agree on something. On the justice front, Trump signed the Take It Down Act, the first federal law to criminalize revenge porn and deepfake adult content. It includes prison time, fines, and mandates content removal within 48 hours. First Lady Melania backed the effort. I could probably imagine why, because I guarantee she had some weird stuff published about her regarding AI, and it passed with bipartisan support. Civil liberties groups are raising concerns about free speech, but overall, the public sentiment leans in favor of stronger digital protections. And I agree. I've been saying it quite often, quite frequently, that we need better AI protections, especially with deepfakes, especially with using AI to do weird, explicit things to people without their consent. Now, I would be curious on the specific details to ensure that they don't cross a line, but overall, I'm very much in favor of something like this to protect people against AI as it continues to evolve. Turning to immigration, Trump just reversed protections for nearly 350,000 Venezuelans who had temporary protected status under Biden. I've said this before when I broke down what exactly immigration means, what exactly illegal immigration means. And illegal is just a loaded term at this point. It doesn't mean that people are just coming into the country without any certain type of provisions. Most of the part, these illegal immigrants are just not people that have been officially legalized in the American system yet. They're usually waiting or they're protected from being a refugee, temp status. They're brought here due to trafficking. They're waiting for asylum process. A lot of those things is what illegal immigration means. Now, it's funny to say that Trump knows that, and now he's going after the temp status illegal immigrants, specifically the Venezuelans. A Supreme Court ruling let it happen, with Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson being the lone dissenting voice. The move has raised concerns about future deportations for other groups, including Afghan and Cameroonian refugees. Many of these individuals have lived and worked here for years. Now they're facing sudden uncertainty. And in a particularly harsh moment, a Boston judge found the administration violated due process when it deported 8 men to South Sudan within 24 hours without giving them time to appeal. Legal advocates are calling it an alarming rollback of civil rights. Meanwhile, the Trump administration tried to take over the U.S. Institute of Peace by firing the entire board and replacing them with loyalists. We've talked about it before. One of the core things the MAGA administration wants to do is consolidate their power in their cult leader being Donald Trump. A federal judge ruled the move illegal and reinstated the original board, calling it a clear breach of federal law. Over at Harvard, the federal government pulled the university's certification to host international students. Homeland Security cited anti-Semitism, questionable foreign ties, and a lack of cooperation with immigration records. Harvard called it political retaliation. The courts have temporarily blocked the move for now, but the fight is not over. Elsewhere, the Department of Education tried to lay off half its civil rights and student aid staff. Luckily, a federal judge said, no, we're not doing that, ruling the cuts unlawful. So for now, students and families can still get the help they need navigating financial aid and reporting discrimination. It's very interesting, the stuff that they try to cut. And if you didn't listen to my last podcast episode, I definitely broke down how the budget works, where a lot of the funding to the budget actually goes to. And a lot of the stuff they're trying to cut is very marginal, but it has intended purposes, it seems, in a very construed conservative thinking. In health news, Trump's team wants tighter restrictions for COVID vaccine approvals, requiring randomized trials before greenlighting any new shots. Supporters say it's about building public trust, whereas critics argue it slows down response times and make future outbreaks worse. We'll see how this works in practice, especially considering that the measles outbreak epidemic doesn't seem like it's slowing down. Now, it's not a catastrophe, it's not a pandemic by any means, but if it hits that point, are we just going to let millions of people die until we're absolutely sure that it does exactly what the Republicans want? I don't know. Let's move on to foreign policy. Trump has downsized the National Security Council by half. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is stepping in as interim leader after the last appointee accidentally added a journalist to a classified group chat. Y'all remember Signalgate? I hope you do. Critics say this isn't the time to shrink the national security team, especially with tensions rising in Ukraine, Iran, and Europe. Speaking of Europe, Trump wants to slap a 25% tariff on imported iPhones. Apple says prices could surge past $3,500. Trump's message: bring manufacturing back to the United States. The EU is also facing potential tariffs on American goods, which could kick off a brand new trade war. We love that, right? We love screwing over the consumers. Now, this doesn't really affect me because I'm not one of those people who buys the brand new Apple iPhone every time it comes out. At this point, I think I kind of learned pretty quickly as I became an adult who has to buy his own things that Honestly, these phones are not that different from one another. Now, if there is a revolutionary technology that comes out, we got the Meta glasses creating this kind of interesting new reality. So I'm curious about that. That definitely will be affected by these prices. Now, to defense, Trump announced a $175 billion missile defense system called the Golden Dome, designed to intercept enemy missiles, including those launched from space. Some call it necessary, others see it as overkill. The Congressional Budget Office says it could cost $500 billion over 20 years. The promise? National security. The price tag? Massive. So it's funny. We're never really in a threat ever since Pearl Harbor for other countries attacking us. We already have a really good defense system in the United States, especially considering we have oceans protecting us from other countries. The only people we may have to worry about is Mexico and Canada. So with that said, everybody complaining about the budget, everybody complaining about the GDP to debt ratio and all that stuff, but it's okay for a $175 billion Golden Dome plan that is not needed, it's not necessary, it's not important. Again, we got to look at our priorities. We got to look at things that actually matter versus things that don't. But this kind of just plays into the full circle idea that a lot of people on the right want to isolate themselves from the rest of the world. Bring all that funding to here, just protect us and keep everybody out. That's exactly what they want. This is no different from what they do in Marizua and One Piece. Let's come on. They create an isolated utopian society, kick out people that don't belong, and we become the elites. It's the same exact thing. Continuing on the conversation of military talk, nuclear energy is back on the front burner. Trump signed 4 executive orders to fast-track new reactor development, expand uranium mining, and build plants on federal land. A 5th order calls for promoting gold standard science and research. Supporters call it a bold energy plan. Critics say it's hasty and underregulated. We'll have to see how this works. I'm in favor of nuclear energy for sure, but there is that danger that could really damage not only the environment, but all of human society as well if something goes wrong. On the legal front, the DOJ is investigating Andrew Cuomo over his COVID-era testimony to Congress. The claim, he misled lawmakers about nursing home deaths. Cuomo calls it political retaliation, especially with the New York mayoral primary right around the corner. You know why this makes a lot of sense? You know what they're trying to do? New York is a very important location, mainly a Democrat location. You know who was the last mayor? Eric Adams, the corrupt politician that got bailed out by Donald Trump. You know who Eric Adams is going up against? Andrew Cuomo. You know who they're going to try to, retaliate against? Get Andrew Cuomo out of there. Make sure Eric Adams wins, who is what's the word? Now loyal to Donald Trump. And this is obviously going to work in Donald Trump's favor because this is Donald Trump's hometown. This is where he lives. And I'm sure the moment Eric Adams wins, that the first thing he's going to do is go like, hey, that situation regarding the New York falsifying business records where you falsified millions of dollars. Who cares? You can come on back. It's all fine. It's all pushed under the rug. That's exactly what is going on here. It's night and day on what is going on here. So yeah, corruption. Love to see it. Also, the DOJ is rolling back federal oversight of police departments in Minneapolis and Louisville, ending consent decrees that were supposed to ensure civil rights reforms. The Trump administration says it's restoring local control. Critics say it's federal abandonment during a crucial moment for accountability. So a lot of these things that we are using to ensure that the police department is accountable, we are putting that back. I've criticized the police force quite a bit. I said they need better training. They also need more funding. Like I'm even keel. But the Trump administration said, nah, they're fine. Who cares about all these different policies, such as having a webcam to ensure a cop is not being corrupt? We don't care about that. Who cares about more training? We don't care about that. I mean, it's obvious what the intention of the Trump administration is. And finally, Trump received a $400 million Boeing 747 jet from Qatar. We talked about this. We talked about how a lot of Republicans did not like this. And we heard that people were saying, oh, he's not going to accept that. It's no big deal. Well, some say it's meant to serve as a future Air Force One, or maybe part of his presidential library setup. Senate Democrats are calling it unconstitutional under the Foreign Gifts Clause. Trump says it's a benefit for the military. Either way, it's an unusual gift with major political implications. So it seems like Trump really wants it. That's what we got for this segment of Nuanced News. Immigration shifts, sweeping tax bills, courtroom drama, and foreign affairs wrapped up in headlines that never stop coming. Hope you got some really great information out of this segment. Stay tuned, we're not done yet. We have another great segment for you, Research on a Dime, as we prepare to talk about the conversation of due process. A lot of people bring this up in regards to Trump administration not allowing immigrants that they're deporting having due process. And the comparison is January 6ers didn't have due process and Obama did the exact same thing. Well, let's dive right into it. Let's see if that's true, or is there more to that story? I do apologize for interrupting this great podcast episode, but I have a question for you. Did you know you can support this show by downloading and becoming a member of the Alive Podcast Network app? You'll experience unlimited access to Black-hosted content, and we'll be able to keep bringing you amazing content week after week. If you enjoy what I'm doing, then I'm sure you're going to enjoy a bunch of other creators as well by downloading this app, of course. So without further ado, after you're done watching and being entertained with today's news or conversation, make sure you guys go download the Alive Network app now. Between 2009 and 2016, the Obama administration formally deported about 3 million immigrants. The Department of Homeland Security defines removals as the compulsory movement of someone out of the U.S. based on an order of removal. Trump's first term from 2017 to 2020 saw roughly 1.5 million deportations, with over 130,000 more since his second inauguration, keeping enforcement aggressive and steady. Now, MAGA supporters and some Republicans have often drawn comparison between Obama's deportations and Trump's, especially around the idea of due process. They argue that Obama was also deporting people without proper legal rights, and that Trump's actions are just a continuation of that. So, is that comparison accurate? Or is there a real difference between the two? Here's the thing. While both administrations deported large numbers, the key difference lies in how they handled due process. Under Obama, about 75% of removals happened through expedited processes, which means these deportations bypass full immigration court hearings, especially for people caught at the border or with prior deportations. That's a significant sacrifice of due process, for sure, and it raised big concerns about fairness. Matter of fact, there was a slew of Democrats back in the day who criticized Obama for this. So the claim that Obama didn't get criticism from Democrats back in the day when this happened is not true. Now, I was way too young to be one of those criticisms. I was a kid, for goodness sake. So, of course, I couldn't enter the conversation and provide my own criticism. But there was 100% criticism for Obama. But under Trump, the use of these fast-track removals intensified and expanded, and in some cases, legal safeguards were even further eroded. Trump's administration has used aggressive tactics to deport immigrants, like deporting Venezuelan nationals under the Alien Enemies Act, a 1798 law rarely applied in modern times, which critics say skipped normal judicial review entirely. We know plenty of immigrants that suffered for this Alien Enemies Act, and the court rulings and the court rejections and blocks, it's been going back and forth. This is way more severe and aggressive compared to Obama. So yes, both Obama and Trump administration sacrificed due process. When it comes to the principle, Obama 100% deserves criticism. But Trump's approach has been more aggressive and less selective, prioritizing speed and mass removals over legal fairness and humanitarian considerations. It's like both coaches breaking some rules in a game, but Trump's team is playing way rougher, being more violent, and getting less calls. So ultimately, Obama was more selective. He used processes was within his legal right and got challenged and denied and criticized by Democrats. Obama was here when it comes to definitely not adhering to due process entirely, but he at the very least was aiming for more criminals and stuff. Whereas Trump is all the way up here. He's just deporting people left, right, and center and using bullshit acts to call them invasions and very much trying to screw up the current system. Now, that was the first part of the conversation in regards to due process. There's at the very least somewhat validity what is being said, but substantially they're not the same. Now, how does this compare to the MAGA claims about January 6th defendants not getting due process? That's where things get interesting. MAGA supporters say their people were denied due process, held without bail unfairly, politically targeted, and prosecuted as a vendetta. But the facts tell a different story. Most January 6 defendants had full access to lawyers, court hearings, and evidence. Those held without bail were mostly accused of violence or conspiracy, which aligns with standard legal practice to protect public safety. You hear it all the time from Republicans. Matter of fact, I had a conversation with a Republican maybe a year ago where he believes that even misdemeanors means that these people should not get any bail and they should be locked up as well. So this is a common principle, and the people who didn't get due process followed the exact same principle. Everybody else who was up in the air got the due process just like everybody else would be in the same situation. Independent courts and even conservative investigations have found no evidence supporting election fraud claims, which where the supposed justification for the Capitol attack happened. This means MAGA's comparison is misleading or outright false. They stretch the truth to fit their narrative by claiming unfair treatment for January 6th defendants while ignoring the very real lack of due process faced by immigrants under Trump's deportation policies. In other words, they're accusing the justice system of bias in one case while supporting policies that dismantle fairness in another. That's like complaining about a referee's call on your team, but then cheering when your coach ignores the rules to win a game under the exact same thing that was called. Due process is a cornerstone of American justice. It's meant to protect everyone equally, whether you're charged with a crime or seeking refugee. The real question is whether we uphold those principles consistently or let political convenience decide who gets a fair shot. So that is the full breakdown on the conversation of due process. So it's not the exact same when it comes to Donald Trump. A lot of people have narratives that they saw on Twitter and then took that to a heart. And unfortunately, some people, when they hear this, are like, I don't know if this is true or not, so I'm going to have to concede. Do not concede. Never concede to MAGA. Most of the time, they're lying. Just look it up yourself. Simple as that. Hope you guys got a lot from this on Research on a Dime. We got a few more segments before the show's over. Now, typically, my next segment would be Break Down the Public, but this is the first time we're doing it, so we have no questions or comments. So again, if you guys want to ask me a question, if you want me to answer something for you, or maybe I'll just find something on my social media, feel free to email me. So we're going to skip that segment and dive into our final segment before the podcast episode is over, Deep Dive Trend. And today's conversation is the controversy, the weird drama that is going on with Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese, specifically the race war that is going on in conversations like Ryan Clark and RG3. Let's dive right into that. Now, if you didn't know, there's been a lot of controversy regarding the flagrant foul, I guess, from Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese. Now, these are two WNBA players, and ever since Caitlyn Clark arrived on the scene and became this social media phenomenon, became this media phenomenon in general, there's always been this conversation of racial indifference and treating black versus white women weirdly. And I always thought this conversation was cringe. They just let these women ball. And the conversation of Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese in particular has always been cringe. And I'm glad a lot of them addressed it. I know Angel Reese gets attacked from like racist people against her. And I know Caitlyn Clark gets attacked regarding racist people against her. And it's just like these women are just trying to play basketball, right? There may be some jealousy that you can point out. There may be some animosity, sure, because she's a new big thing. I'm sure the same thing happened when it came to Michael Jordan trying to propel himself as the next big thing. LeBron James, too. It just comes with the territory of being an all-time great, a generational talent. Ultimately, though, making this about race and all this stuff is cringe. So this conversation erupted, and I'm going to give my 2 cents based on things that are said and try to expand the conversation a little bit. So it started out with Robert Griffin III. Well, technically, it started out with when the Fever played against the Sparks. I believe that's the team Angel Reese is on. And Caitlyn Clark committed a flagrant foul on Angel Reese. Now, when I watched that foul, I'm going to tell you my honest thoughts. I thought it was a normal basketball play, to be honest. And the NBA, Draymond Green does that religiously. I did not really care. For sure, a foul. Was it like super aggressive, like when Draymond kicked people in the nuts or someone choking out another NBA player? No, it wasn't. It was just a hack trying to prevent someone else get the ball, maybe put them at the free throw line. Okay, whatever, cool. It's not a big deal in my personal opinion. With that said, that happened. A lot of people talked about it. A lot of people complaining. A lot of people picking sides for some weird reason, including Robert Griffin III. Now, this is what Robert Griffin III said about the foul. After watching Caitlyn Clark's flagrant foul on Angel Reese in the aftermath, there's no way Angel Reese can continue the lie that she doesn't dislike Caitlyn Clark. I know what hatred looks like. Angel Reese hates Caitlyn Clark, not some basketball rivalry hate either. Hate. Now, can you come up to this conclusion based off a foul? Hard to say. I honestly don't really care. There are 100% people in the NBA that actually hate each other, that actually despise each other. Who cares if Angel Reese hates Caitlyn Clark? Who cares if someone says you hate Caitlyn Clark? I'm sure Angel Reese and Caitlyn Clark are not the best of friends. I'm sure they don't really, I guess they might be. You know, we see that all the time. Like Luka and Devin Booker have respect for each other, but they were going at it in the playoffs. So ultimately, I'm like, okay, the quote really wasn't that bad. I don't see any racial undertone. There may be something regarding RG3's past that insinuates he has something against Angel Reese and insinuating she's an angry black woman, just like how Draymond Green was complaining and whining about it at the NBA in regards to something that happened to him. It's possible. But from the quote in its entirely, from what I see, I mean, I don't really care. I think that's a fine thing to say. It's kind of similar to when people say Tom Brady hates Eli Manning. I mean, when he played him twice and lost him the Super Bowl twice and he didn't shake his hand, I think it's fine to say he hates Eli Manning. Who cares, right? So, with that said, Ryan Clark had something to say about it, and I am interested to see what he said and give my own commentary on what it means.
We moved in to being able to read the expressions of a person and know their intent, know their character, know their perspective. But he does understand hate because I think he also understands the hate of self. When you look at the play, which is all we can speak to as professionals, all we can speak to as analysts, Angel Reese pushed one of her teammates. Caitlyn Clark had a hard foul, which is part of basketball. I feel like it was assessed correctly. And Angel Reese's reaction is the sort of reaction you get in a situation when you feel like you took an intentionally hard foul. That's competitive.
Now, that claim about Angel Reese's reaction, depending on you thinking you got an intentional hard foul, I do think that is reasonable. I don't think the foul was that bad, honestly, but you never can really associate how people are thinking. So, but I don't think it's a big deal. So I'm not going to really provide a lot of commentary in regards to that in particular. I think the foul was the normal basketball play, and I've seen much more egregious things to insinuate someone should react harshly. And that one, I don't think required one. But if it was on street ball and someone hacked me like that, you never know. So I think I agree with Ryan Clark. You never know how people react, and that's a reasonable way to react if you thought someone hacked you.
Competitiveness. Sure. That's rivalry. That's not hate. And so now, though, when RG3 jumps on to the hate train,
I will say, just to play the kind of devil's advocate, rivalry could also include hate, right? Like Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas have a rivalry. They also hate each other. So like they can be one and the same.
Or to the angry train, and now follows along with what we saw from Keith Olbermann, what we saw from Dave Portnoy as they poured on to Angel Reese to make her the villain in Caitlyn Clark's heroic or hero story. Right. The one thing we know about RG3 is he's not.
I have seen, I don't know much about Keith Olbermann, but I have seen about Dave Portnoy and his claims about, you know, bringing race into the stuff. Dave Portnoy is corny, so I don't really care about what he says. But there is that Caitlyn Clark being perceived as a hero, Angel Reese being the villain of the WNBA. That narrative 100% exists. So there's no denying that claim in and itself. Now, should you, just because people are doing that, should you attach every criticism to Reese or every assessment of Reese and how she acts to that larger narrative that other people are creating? No, that's kind of lazy. It really depends on what your own words determines what you think about a specific situation. So let's hear what Ryan Clark has to say.
Having conversations at his home about what Black women have to endure in this country, about what young Black women and athletes like Angel Reese have had to deal with being on the opposite side of Caitlyn Clark's rise and ascension into stardom. Now, when you look at it, I think Asia...
I just don't understand why that's a part of the conversation. Why are we going towards RG3 and having conversations about what's going on with Black women at his household? You don't need to have these conversations in your household to be able to make a claim about a person. That sounds kind of gatekeepy. Now, it brings out validity based off your assessment and your perspective and where it comes from. It also could potentially insinuate bias, of course, but it's harder to sell me that. But I don't really know RG3's background. Do you know RG3's background? Let's keep on. Maybe he does. Maybe we will find something out.
Is the face of the league. Asia Wilson is the best player in the league. Caitlyn Clark is the most important player in the WNBA. And a ton of her fandom has come along with some racial bias or some racial pieces to why people love her so much. And so now if you're RG3, when is the last time within your household you've had a conversation about what she's dealing with? You haven't been able to do that because in both of your marriages, you've been married to white women. You haven't had opportunities to have those conversations to educate you on what they're feeling, what Black women deal with, what they're seeing when they think of a young Angel Reese. And the whole time that he's mimicking Angel Reese and bobbing his head and moving his neck while he's doing this whole piece, his wife is in the back, amening and clapping. And so to me, it's just another situation that now this young lady has to deal with.
So that at that point, that's a ridiculous thing to say. It is. Because you're making it something that it is not. Unless you can properly assess intention behind what RG3 said. And again, there might be historical context in regards to RG3's behaviors that alludes to this being factually correct. But based off the surface, in regards to the criticism about Angel Reese hating Caitlyn Clark, I don't like. Who cares? Who cares if he said she hates Caitlyn Clark? Because these are the same people. I'm not going to speak on Ryan Clark in particular, but when it comes to sports fans, especially old heads, they love the animosity. They love the hatred. They love the fire. They want that in the NBA. They want that in the NFL. They want quarterbacks that hate each other, right? Just like the 90s. So isn't that exactly what you would want? A real feud, a real rivalry, a hatred and animosity. When I see you on the court, I want all smoke on the court. So why does this have to be a bigger conversation about what Black women go through historically if we're just talking basketball? At this point, you're thinking beyond what is actually on the court. That's what it seems like from me. You're bringing stuff up that doesn't matter to the conversation. We're talking basketball. Why are you bringing up his family? That's weird. Why are you bringing up the conversations he has at home? That's weird. You don't know that. And just because he has a white wife doesn't mean he can't have these important conversations. That's weird. You're insinuating intent. You're insinuating the conversations they're having at home. That is lazy, Ryan Clark, because you're so hell-bent on protecting Angel Reese, which is fine. She needs her protectors just as like she's been getting her criticizers. That's fine. I don't care if you want to protect Angel Reese. But you can't make claims without evidence and apply intent onto someone else's rhetoric without proof. So ultimately, when it comes down to the bigger conversations on what's going on with Angel Reese and the potential racism that goes on with her, that's a conversation. But in terms of the foul, that's basketball. These are separate conversations. And I am glad, I implore Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese and the WNBA for looking into these people who are being disgusting, being discriminatory and being racist. That's what should happen. The stars should call it out when they can, because there's nowhere for that in the game of basketball. It's just basketball, right? So yeah, it's just a weird thing to do, Ryan.
When I worked with RG3, he would make all of these sort of corny jokes about milk and how much he loved it and how important it was. And he always points out on social media the color of his wife's skin, as if the color of her skin is what makes her special, as if the color of her skin is what makes her a good wife. I've met the lady. I've had a conversation with her. Right. I think she's more than that. But it also leads.
Does he do this? I have no idea if Ryan RG3 brings up the color of his wife's skin. If he does do that, that would be kind of weird. Matter of fact, I'm going to pause this. I'm going to go a quick little Twitter search history and see if this actually happens. So I went on a little quick Twitter search, and from what I can tell, a lot of the rhetoric behind RG3 is that he tries to preach the idea that people should look beyond color. And that's just a quick search, right? A lot of people don't like that, of course, because they want you to be more inclined to talk about your specific people. And I don't really abide by that. So I'm more empathetic to this idea. And I see him saying things like black is beautiful, white is beautiful, yellow is beautiful. He also brings up the idea that it doesn't matter who you are, trans, white, we all should love each other. Like, he's one of those people that think everyone's equal. Everybody should appreciate each other. We should look beyond color. We should look beyond race. So again, this is just one of those claims by Ryan Clark that it's weird. Maybe he knows something that I don't, but from the outside looking in, it seems like he has an issue, the fact that RG3 is not more pro-black. That's what it seems like to me, at the very least.
It's to what Black women deal with a lot from Black men who have chose to date or marry outside of their race. They always feel like they have to go the extra mile to prop up the woman that they're married or the woman that they're with over Black women by denigrating Black women. I feel like
you think RG3 denigrates Black women by uplifting his woman? That's a strong claim. That's a strong claim. One thing that people bring up when it came to Ryan Clark is the fact that his first woman that he was with his first child was a white woman, and he has a biracial daughter. So maybe that was just a really bad experience, but these are strong claims, and it kind of coincides with what I just said, that you're just upset that RG3 is not more pro-Black, is what it really sounds like to me.
Like we should have an opportunity to move past that and understand that Angel Reese can be great in her own right, as Caitlyn Clark is as well. Caitlyn Clark is a likable and lovable superstar. She pays homage to the stars of the past. She pays homage to the Black women that have come before her. And now she is carrying the mantle forward. So there's no need to pin those two against each other and paint them based on stereotypical tropes. And
is he painting her based on stereotypical tropes, or is he just saying she hates her based off of a basketball rivalry? I see. Okay, so I understand. Don't get me wrong. I understand the surface level understanding or the surface level narrative that is painted regarding certain tropes and traits that is attached to white and Black people. I know the angry moniker, the hatred moniker is attached to Black people for sure. But if you're going to be an individual that is more enlightened and willing to have these conversations, you can't also be the person that is too lazy to apply these same type of narratives that you think are problematic to any criticism that is made that are assigned those words if it's not used in that same type of derogatory way. So at that point, you're not doing anything that is different from the racists that use those words incorrectly, because now you're defending the individual from any time these words are applied to them, when oftentimes it's possible, or sometimes it's possible, the word is either appropriately used or used for a more innocent reason. It's okay. I'm Black. I can be angry. I can be hateful. It's okay. The angry Black man stereotype is disgusting. Doesn't mean that I'm not angry and hateful sometimes. Those happen. It is a lazy term, and we should call out people who just throw it out there for unnecessary reasons, though. Like, you can do both. Both is possible.
I think this is what I like RG3 to know, that no matter how much he continues to echo the microaggressions of racists, he'll be no less Black than me.
Hold up.
Okay. Well, I gave my 2 cents there. We're not done. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. We're not done. Let's hear RG3's
Yo, what's
response.
up, everybody? It's your boy RG. Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy RG3. And I just wanted to get on here and talk to you guys because there's been a lot of buzz, a lot of conversations about my sports take that Angel Reese hates Caitlyn Clark, which was purely based in basketball. But I think all of you know there's a line in life that you just simply don't cross. Wives and children are always off limits. And Ryan Clark has sprinted past that line. Ryan Clark didn't like my sports take that Angel Reese hates Caitlyn Clark. And that's fine. It's okay. It's part of the.
So he said it's based off pure basketball. Now, again, there might be something I missed. I'm just going based off the quote I saw. Maybe there's more context that I'm missing. It's okay to not be completely informed and just go based off what you do know, but are open to learning more information down the line. I think that is completely okay. I know the current landscape of political strife and cultural divide prevents people to be wrong, but it's okay. New information can develop your thought processes. He said it's about basketball. And I mean, from the quote itself, it does seem like there's no other evidence that it's not about basketball. Fair enough.
The game. Sports media, I'm going to have an opinion. This person might not agree with it. That person might not agree with it. But what you don't do is turn around and personally attack me and my family just because you don't agree with a sports opinion that is purely based off the sport. I didn't make it personal. But what that really shows is just how low of a person Ryan Clark is.
I'm not going to speak on him being low. I don't know Ryan Clark like that. I don't consume his entertainment that much. I've seen some good things. I've seen bad things, but this definitely sounds like it's getting personal. But ultimately, I do agree that Ryan Clark took it to a place he did not need to be going when he mentioned his family. It was weird.
But Ryan, you crossed the line, man. You made it personal and some. I really believe there should be no space in sports media for personal attacks. I've said it before, but certainly personal attacks against wife and children have always been off limits. Ryan, you attacked me and my family in a public forum on a level that shows just how low of a human being you are. You can disagree with me all you want. Challenge my takes.
I don't think what Ryan Clark said was necessarily like evil. I don't think it's an attack on necessary character. Well, I think he attacked Ryan. I think he attacked RG3's character. I don't think he really attacked his family's character by any means, but I do think he has a strong opinion about RG3. So when it comes to RG3 feeling like this man attacked me personally, I feel like that is a very well-founded opinion. And apparently Ryan Clark apologized, kind of. We'll watch that video too and get some commentary on that as well.
But keep my family and my wife out of it. That's a boundary that should always be respect, always. Ryan Clark personally attacking me and my family.
At the end of the day, the most he said is that you don't have those conversations because you have a white wife regarding Black women and what they've been through. And then he also, this is somewhat of an attack, saying that when you're saying things about certain people, your wife is just in the background clapping and shaking her head. That is an attack. That one right there is an attack. But for the most part, it was mostly directed to RG3.
Because he disagreed with my sports opinion is a bad look for ESPN. It's cowardly, it's spineless, and it's weak. Ryan Clark personally attacking me and my family.
You repeated the same thing 3 times, RG3.
Sports opinion is a bad look for him as a man. I hope you get the help you need, brother.
Okay. Not much there. He just really he did what he had to do. He's playing into the NFL drama. All right, last one is in regards to Ryan Clark, and then we'll give final opinions about the whole entire situation. All right, so this is Ryan Clark's apology towards RG3. We'll listen to this, give my commentary, and then we'll wrap up the full thoughts on this entire situation and hopefully give you a better perspective on how we should be dealing with these type of conversations and what it means in the grander scope of political society or just society in general, not even just politics, right? And let's dive into this.
Let me say this before getting into reasoning, before getting into thought process. She should not have been brought up in me trying to make a point about how having Black women close to you and the things that you learn from them can help you in the way that you approach and speak to and about them.
So there's truth to that in the sense that it can help. You can phrase things in a different way when you're trying to assign potential ignorance among the individual that you're talking to. One of the ways that I preach on my podcast that helps in terms of understanding the world is getting different perspectives, getting different experiences and talking them through with different types of people. That helps you understand certain things. Now, RG3 obviously is a black man, so I don't know his history regarding black women or his struggle or any of that. So that's even harder for me to sell unless there's something about RG3 only grew up in a very privileged area with around only white people. Then I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't know his history like that, right? Ultimately, that advice of it can help you expand your perspective is well-founded generally. Now, within the context of a conversation regarding a basketball foul and someone saying he hates her for or Angel Reese hates Caitlyn Clark in regards to their basketball rivalry, I don't see how that was necessary to bring up in that context. And also, this was not advice. It was a claim that you don't know what you're talking about because you have no black women in your household. So it wasn't advice. It would help your perspective. It was, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have those conversations. So it was more so a claim.
He didn't need to be the illustration of that. I could speak positively about what they are without making the insinuation that it's something that non-black women don't do well. I'm doing the exact same thing, or it may have seemed that I did the exact same thing to her that I'm trying to keep people from doing to black women.
I'm so glad he said that. Ryan Clark, I respect the accountability. I respect it because he's completely right. That's the exact commentary I gave about Ryan Clark just a while ago and what he did and what it means. The fact that he recognized that, came on this platform and was accountable for what he did, I respect that wholeheartedly.
My thought process was, in seeing certain clips on my algorithm, on my timeline, they do a podcast together. In that podcast, they talk very openly about not being black enough. They talk very openly about biracial kids, what it's like to not be accepted in the black community. They very rarely talk about black women. In the video that RG3 posted that I felt like mocked Angel Reese, she was...
I should have watched that video. I thought there was only a quote. I should have watched the video. I didn't realize there was a video about it. Maybe that would have me lean a little bit more towards Ryan Clark. Maybe.
Was in the background. Then I love the optics of RG3, a black man, attacking and imitating, and what I felt insulting, mocking a black woman.
All right, we're going to watch the video after this. We're going to find it and watch it.
As his wife was in the background, almost seemingly as a prop of, and this is my feeling, of what was good, amening, nodding along, and applauding what I felt like was a personal attack. I didn't. But that doesn't mean because I have that feeling about what you do to someone else that I can do that to you.
Which is very, very fair. And I'm glad he recognized that. I will say this, though. When you have a preconceived notion that any criticism towards a person is met by a very bigger narrative that is being implemented, proving that Angel Reese is an angry black woman, any criticism that you see that can somewhat align tangentially or somewhat correlate, branched off way, it will always seem like there's an ulterior motive behind the criticism. I mean, it's no different from like how everything that criticizes Donald Trump is, from MAGA's perspective, something that is based off the deep state, based off this media cartel that is going against Donald Trump. It's the same premise, same principle. That's why you can't allow that to shadow your thinking. And you got to look at the content for what it is, but also recognizing the context. Now, potential context could allude something that Ryan Clark may be right about regarding RG3. But even from your own comments, it sounds like he talked about his own experience, and he talked about the experience being, part of a biracial relationship. Just because he doesn't have conversations about something else doesn't mean that he doesn't understand it. It's just he's speaking on a very personal thing, is what it sounds like to me. And based on what you said, it doesn't sound like he's ever mocking the black community. You're just speaking about it from a different lens.
So to Greta, I was out of line. I was out of bounds. I apologize. To all of the people that don't like RG's take or takes or the way that he moves, or even if you just in this conversation take my side and want to support me, leave his family alone. It doesn't take a daily attack on his wife, on his children, to remind him that you think his takes, or whatever it is the wrong thing to you. Families should be off limits. I started that by bringing her into it. I see that now. No matter what my intent was, the impact was different. If I had to do it all over again, I would do it a different way.
I respect that. Ryan Clark got a lot of respect from me for being accountable, but also knowing what he criticized and how he perceived things. That was very perfectly articulated for sure. All right. Since I am a expert podcaster, I wouldn't call myself a journalist. I wanted to make sure we got the full context of what is going on to give complete commentary and expand the conversation. All right, let's dive into RG3's video. I found it.
So where was this type of reaction last year when Angel Reese got chokeslammed by Alyssa Thomas of the Connecticut Sun? Y'all remember that? She got fouled so hard, they kicked Aaliyah Thomas out the game with a flagrant 2 foul. What did Angel Reese do? Nothing. She didn't get up and try to swing on her. You know why? The reaction was different because of who did it. And there is a lot of history there with Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese. You guys remember last year when Angel Reese celebrated Kennedy Carter getting that flagrant foul on the hip check against Caitlyn Clark? You remember that? On the sideline, just, yeah, baby, get her, you get her. Who celebrates like that for a flagrant foul on another player if they don't dislike that player? Okay, you want some more evidence? Here's some more evidence. Remember last year when they were talking about who gets the credit for the expansion and the eyeballs and the popularity boost of women's basketball? Not just the WNBA, but women's basketball in general, because of the spike in the women's NCAA tournament and WNBA viewership. A lot of people were attributing that to Caitlyn Clark, and rightfully so. This is what Angel Reese had to say, and I quote, "People are talking about women's basketball. You never would think they'd be talking about women's basketball. People are pulling up to the games. We got celebrities coming to the games, sold out arenas just because of one single game. Just looking at that, I'll take that role. I'll take the bad guy role, and I'll continue to take that on to be that for my teammates. I know I'll go down in history. I'll look back in 20 years and be like, the reason we're watching women's basketball is not just because of one person. It's because of me too. I want y'all to realize that." Now, I heard a lot of people say that I or others have made Angel Reese the villain. Did you not just hear herself call herself the bad guy? She called herself the villain. I'm not making her the villain. She's making herself the villain.
Okay. And then I'm going to read this tweet. Angel Reese hates Caitlyn Clark. It's staring at us right in the face, but people are afraid to say it, won't answer questions about Caitlyn Clark, gets mad when people praise Caitlyn Clark for the explosion of popularity around women's basketball, celebrates when her teammates flagrantly foul Caitlyn Clark, goes after and tries to punch Caitlyn Clark after a routine, make them earn it foul after Angel Reese fouled Aaliyah Boss with a push in the back that wasn't called. That's not just hate, that's jealousy and resentment. Some people get uncomfortable when you say Angel Reese hates or is jealous of Caitlyn Clark because of the complex racial history of America and the historical stereotypes of the angry or jealous black woman. I understand that. Angel Reese isn't just some jealous black woman. Angel Reese is an NCAA champion and great basketball player. She's a competitor who has shown she doesn't like how Caitlyn Clark is crowned while she's criticized for showing the same confidence and fire in her own way. That's not an assumption. That's what Angel Reese has said and shown us at all. And yeah, that could turn into hate, jealousy, and resentment. That's what makes this rivalry real to a lot of viewers. Caitlyn Clark is the most popular athlete in America. Angel Reese is the Isaiah Thomas to Caitlyn Clark's Michael Jordan. Legit a comparison, I said. That's what will continue to raise the popularity of WNBA. Keep people care about rivalries. Angel Reese, rivalries are important, all that jazz. Angel Reese wants to beat and outshine Caitlyn Clark. She wants to be the villain. Angel Reese has beaten Caitlyn Clark but never outshined her, even when Angel won the national title. Firstly, I wanted to see her and Caitlyn at the White House. Over time, the hate and resentment has built up. You could see in her overreaction. I mean, okay. Now understanding the full context, nothing about what I said before changes. I mean, this RG3 legit says she's not an angry black woman. She's not a jealous black woman. He's talking about the basketball about it. He's talking about the basketball. And he tries to separate. I know the racial context. I understand that. I only care about the basketball. And that is valid. Just like I said with Michael Jordan and LeBron James, there are people that hated them, there are people that want to be better than them, and that played into rivalries. He basically elicited my assumption on what he meant, and now he confirmed that's exactly what he meant. So I get it. You want to protect Angel Reese because people hate Angel Reese because she's black. That is true. She deserves her protection. Protect her. Go crazy. But for me, and for someone like Ryan Clark, who I consider a very articulate, educated black man, you got to be able to separate the racism from the criticism. They're not always aligned. They're not always compounded to each other. So in this situation, from what I've seen, from the full context, it's possible Angel Reese feels some type of way about Caitlyn Clark considering she's the shiny new toy. It's possible. But it's also possible Angel Reese is also getting a lot of clout and attention because she is the rival of Caitlyn Clark, even though she's not as good as Caitlyn Clark. But you know, it's interesting when it comes to the WNBA, after Caitlyn Clark, there's not that many people who are as popular as Angel Reese. So Angel Reese is benefiting a lot from this. Not even Paige Buchers is getting talk about like Angel Reese was getting talked about in her first couple of games, right? So ultimately, I think RG3 has a point there. And I'm glad he recognized the racial context. I think probably would have helped a little bit better that he made it very clear in his video that anybody hating on Angel Reese because she's black is, I'm not okay with that, is racist. That's not good. Probably should have said that in the video to alleviate any type of wrong misinterpretation or any kind of wrong optics, like how Ryan Clark believed he thought of something that wasn't true. When it comes down to this conversation regarding Angel Reese and Caitlyn Clark, I understand the controversy, right? Because Angel Reese and Caitlyn Clark have blown up overnight. When you have a sensation like that, when you have an influx of fans, there's obviously going to be a lot of emotion tied to it because this was a crazy thing to happen. So Caitlyn Clark has a lot of fans that are very much a specific type of demographic. Angel Reese has a lot of fans that are a specific type of demographic. There's obviously things that Caitlyn Clark provided for the WNBA that a lot of players and a lot of people were criticizing, not really thinking that she was going to be this big movement. She ended up being this big movement, proving everybody wrong and a lot of people right at the same time. She is that good. She is a generational talent, and she has a lot of fans in general. Of course, I get how mobs of people will turn this into what it shouldn't be. It's basketball. Just like what Magic and Larry Bird provided, just like what Michael Jordan provided, what LeBron James provided, what Kobe Bryant, what Allen Iverson provided. They provided a generationally talent to the game, new viewers, new eyeballs, and everybody's so attached to the player, they'll do everything to protect or destroy their opposition. It's tribal. It's unfortunate, but it happens. This is not a race thing when it comes to Caitlyn and Angel Reese. It is a race thing when it comes to the perception of their popularity and the perception of who they are to the game in it itself. It is up to you to determine whether that should be a part of the conversation or not. I don't think Caitlyn Clark wants it to be the part of the conversation. I don't think Angel Reese wants it to be a part of the conversation. They just want you to focus on what they're doing on the court. Because I started watching the WNBA because I like how Caitlyn Clark plays basketball. I don't watch it because she's white. That'd be weird being my skin color and watching it because she's white. I'll be like Uncle Ruckus. And when I watch Angel Reese, I don't really like her play style. I'm not a fan of it. She has her moments, but I'm not a fan of her play style. So that's why I don't like Angel Reese as compared to Caitlyn Clark. There's other players that I liked. I've liked their play style. I like Sabrina's play style. I like Kelsey Plum's play style. Aja Wilson's a freaking dog. Oh, what? Jewel Lloyd is a demon as well. So yeah, just treat them as humans, right? That's what we should do. And the moment you turn it into a race conversation when it's not really a race conversation, that's problematic. It brings more eyeballs and attention to the media. That's problematic for sure. So criticize the fans. Fine. Criticize them. Go ahead. Criticize the media personalities like the Dave Portnoy that makes this a race thing because they're a bunch of bots who doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. That's fine as well. But if you consider yourself a true analyst, be able to distinguish the two different things when a real criticism is being opted in. Because although you can say Angel Reese hates Caitlyn Clark, which there's a lot of evidence to insinuate that she has some type of jealousy towards Caitlyn Clark, but there's also that benefit. This brings eyeball. That rivalry brings eyeball. Everybody, Angel Reese gets a lot of attention. A lot of people think Angel Reese is gorgeous. There's a lot of people hitting her up. Oh, I'm trying to be with Angel Reese. So it works out for both of them, to be honest. So yeah, the conversation is just weird. It never should have gotten to this far. I respect Ryan Clark for apologizing and being a man about it. And that's all there is to that. With that said, hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast episode. It's very different how I'm doing it. Hopefully this is more entertaining. Hopefully this not only informed you, but it opened up your mind in terms of the nuanced conversations that are going on in society. With that said, if you enjoyed today's podcast episode, make sure to rate it 5 stars. Make sure you share with your friends and family. Make sure you preach the word that I always try to preach all the time: political solutions without political bias, nuanced perspective and understanding. Be willing to have a conversation with different perspectives and learn what the world truly is. I might do an episode in the future to really break down where my core values and morals derive from, but maybe that's a special. Maybe that's something for a future day. With that said, hope you guys enjoyed. Y'all have a good one. Take care and peace.